that cool, Jay and the gang?
Yes.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Hi, how you all doing? This is very fun. This is like a halfway between our actual meetups that we used to have and obviously the virtual we've been doing for the past 7 months. But Laura, thank you for coming here because I've been a big fan of Club Soda since it began. I went to the Mindful Drinking Festival when it was in actual people could come last year, 2019, and I thought it was superb because there were, how many stands?
We had about, the very first one we did in 2017, we managed to just scrape together about 20 brands. And this one we had over 60 and a waiting list of drinks to come. And I guess if you want to understand some of that in perspective, the UK is considered to be the fastest growing and biggest market and most innovation in low and no drinks in the world, which either means we're wonderful and innovative or we've come from a really low base. Decide which one you think. We've got some exciting innovators and you've got them here today as well, which is really great.
It is a category which I, like from the start, and I think a lot of bartenders will say this, you start with a lot of trepidation and a lot of kind of very perplexed looks from bartenders and bar community, like going, hang on a minute, but so you're offering us a new category, which is not a soft drink, but it's not an alcoholic drink, it's a non-alcoholic drink. And so it's kind of this, and then a spirit coming into that category. Even today, when I speak to so many people, I say, yes, it's so I work with a couple of brands that have brought out non-alcoholic spirits. And when you say that to people, they just go, how can that be a thing? A non-alcoholic spirit? How can you attach these words associated to alcohol, like aperitif?
Which we know is strong. We drink it for a reason. Why would you want that alcohol phrase?
Exactly.
And I think for me, there's something really interesting about it, which is that for all of the stuff that we do at Club Soda, it's about creating an equality of experience. Now, I hate going to the pub and being offered, asking for an alcohol-free drink and offered Coke off a hose as if I'm 12 and about to go wait in the car park for my dad. That, to me, is not an experience that I want as an adult. So what you've got are some drinks that say, it doesn't matter who you are, what your dietary drinking preference is, because after all, that is a dietary preference, even if you're only not drinking tonight because you're driving. We've got something for you designed for an adult palate, and that's what's so exciting about it. And these drinks are for everybody, right? They're not just, at some point, we're all a mindful drinker. We might be going to the gym tomorrow, we might have a hard work deadline, we might be driving, but all in all, we're all mindful drinkers. And so these are drinks that fit into that and give you that same equal experience when you're out.
Well, introduce yourself. Tell us a little about Everleaf. Welcome.
Sure. Hello, my name is Paul Mathew. I am the founder of Everleaf, which is this one up on the shelf. I'm also a bar owner. I've got 3 bars in London. I've had those for 14 years now, for the longest one. But prior to that, I was a conservation biologist. So really, Everleaf is a combination of those things. It's the bar owner, bartender side of me combined with the conservation biology and botany side of me. I guess this is a one-way conversation, so I'm just going to carry on.
No, so, I mean, you have all this background from a bar point of view. So you've grown up in the bar world and you've seen what's happening and what inspired you to start Everleaf in the first place. What gave you the impetus to go, this is a thing that should be around and should exist?
Sure. Well, for us, it was seeing a lot more people wanting no options in our bars. And for me, as someone that works in hospitality, it's all about the experience and the hospitality that we can offer in the bars. And so, I mean, you've talked about very serious words there, like addiction, but for me, it's about normalizing not drinking. And it's to be welcoming to everybody that walks through the doors of our bars and to be able to offer them all a great drink. And that's increasingly becoming possible. I mean, Seedlit was launched for 4 or so years now, and that kind of really started this sector. But for me as a bartender, we don't just want one brand on the back bar. This obviously isn't my bar, but it is where I play around with a lot of different things. And we can't just play around with one ingredient. So for me, I wanted something that was bittersweet, that had texture, that had loads of botanical complexity. So I started working on Everleaf.
And this has tapped into another category. So obviously you mentioned Seedlit there as a non-alcoholic spirit, whereas this is very much more in an aperitif side of things. So what people used to aperitifs maybe is certain bit of vermouths or Campari, so on and so forth. So was that an intentional decision to come up with an aperitif as opposed to going down the spirit route?
Yeah, I think as a bartender, a lot of us were a little bit cautious of the non-alc spirit alternatives.
Yeah,
kind of concept when it came out. We're like, well, these aren't spirits. Look, spirit has to be alcohol, has to be over 37.5% alcohol. And we kind of had a bit of an issue with what to call these things.
Yeah.
For me, aperitif is very much about a moment, and it's a moment that we celebrate, that you go out. It's a change of pace from work to relaxation, or it's a change of pace from the kids being up to putting the kids to bed, or it's a change of pace from we're going to cook a meal and have a drink while we're cooking. And all those are kind of trigger points that if you're trying to not drink alcohol are the occasions where you kind of want it, where you feel it's an appropriate thing to do. So for me, aperitif is about capturing the vibrancy of that moment, but without directly referencing spirits.
A lot of people say to me, why is it so expensive if it hasn't got the tax which is associated to alcohol? Now, I know they usually are slightly cheaper, but can you talk us through, for example, the process that goes into this? That therefore justifies. Sure. I know this is an 18 pounds that I paid for this. I think it's completely justified. But in terms of people who are exploring the category and seeing these prices, where does that come from, and how do you kind of justify that, I suppose?
Yeah, I mean, the tax one is always tends to come up, but I feel is a bit unnecessary. I mean, I have gins on the shelf here that are 12, 13 pounds a bottle, and I've got gins on the shelf there that are 40 or 50 pounds a bottle, and they all pay the same amount of tax. It's a premium thing. It's the ingredients you use. I mean, we're using sustainably sourced Madagascar vanilla. We're using saffron. We're using very premium, expensive ingredients for one. So that's one of the reasons why it costs what it costs.
Yeah.
Secondly, I mean, it is actually very hard to make non-alcoholic products that are stable and can sit on a shelf and we can sell. It's not. I mean, solvent is a great alcohol is a great solvent, and it's a great preservative. So actually, if you're making a gin, it's a case of putting all your botanicals in your spirit and distilling it over, and that's it. And not to dumb down any gin distillers out there, because there's obviously a lot of very technical stuff involved. But we have to distill or infuse or steam distill or extract our botanicals in lots of different ways to get the best quality from them. We have to make them incredibly concentrated because we can't have more than 0.5% alcohol in the finished product for it to be non-alcoholic.
Yeah.
So often we're using alcohol, but then very concentrated and diluting it right back down. We have to find a way of making it shelf stable because it doesn't have that alcohol in there to preserve it. Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of things that have been quite challenging to develop over the, well, I guess we launched January last year, but I was working on it for a couple of years before. So there'll be lots of challenges on the way.
I have to say that I really take my hats off to anyone who's producing an alcohol-free spirit or drink in this space. It is so much harder. The process they have to go through are far more complex. Alcohol's a flavour enhancer. It can make all sorts of things taste great. Otherwise, you wouldn't have White Lightning on the shelves, I guess. So when you're looking at these alcohol-free spirits, it's really important for you to look at this about something that's going to fulfil a moment for you, but really respect the processes that the makers have been through. And if you'll speak to some of the others later, I'm in full admiration of the work they put in and to make such amazing drinks. And it's really exciting that nearly all of that innovation is happening here in the UK. Yeah,
I agree. I think you've noticed that. I do notice that it is quite a UK driven thing.